Hey, and welcome back. So next I'm going to show you how to set up leave policies for your company in HR Partner. Essentially, this means that you'll be creating a list of rules that the system will follow in order to automatically accrue your employee leave. And that way you don't have to do the calculations on your own or with spreadsheets. It's all done in the system automatically for you, saving you time. So to start setting up your leave policies, you can do so by clicking the Update Leave Balances button under your shortcuts right here. And after that, you want to click the button that says Set up Leave Policies. As you can see, by default, there are a variety of different leave types, things like annual leave, sick leave, unplanned leave. If you have a custom leave profile you want to add, it's no problem. All you want to do if you have a custom leave profile is click the Add Leave Profile button. But if you already see the leave types that you want in the system, then there's no need to do that. So for all the leave types you use, you're going to want to set up policies for those leave types. And what that does is it'll tell the system how you want to accrue leave. So in this example, I'll go ahead and use annual leave in this tutorial. So let's say I want to give my employees 25 days of vacation time every year, and then I want that leave to carry over to the following year if they haven't used it. This is just one example, but of course, you can set up your leave rules in a variety of different ways so that chances are if you have a custom leave type for your company, it's possible to set that up in the system. But this is just one example. Something else worth noting is that we understand that sometimes some employees will have different vacation time than others. This is definitely okay, and it's super simple to set it up this way in the system. So what you can do is set a general leave policy, and then if you want to go back and edit somebody's individual allowance, you can do that later. Okay, so let's jump in and set up this leave policy. So in order to edit the annual leave policy, just click Edit Policy, and that's this blue button here on the right-hand side. So first it'll ask you if you want to show leave balances in days or hours. So in this example, I'm going to give my employees 25 days leave a year, so I'll leave this as the default days. Next, it'll ask if I want to set up leave balances and auto accruals for employees. And since I want the system to do this for me automatically, I'll leave that as yes. Under default allowance, this is just basically the number of days you want to give your employees per year for vacation. Again, if some employees have different leave than others, you can definitely go back and change that later. This is just to set up an initial default in the system that'll apply to most employees. So in this example, I'm going to go ahead and type in 25 for 25 days. Next, it'll ask you how you'd like leave to be accrued for this leave type. So you can choose between upfront or incremental. And upfront just means that if you give your employees a certain number of vacation time every year and you want it to be fully available to them at any time, then you can give their vacation days to them upfront. Incremental simply means that if you don't want your employees to automatically accrue all of their leave up front, you can set up an incremental rule so that their leave is slowly dispersed. In my case, I want to give my employees 25 days leave up front so that they get it all at once. Next, we'll ask you if you want to reset the employee's leave balance each year. In my case, I want my employees to be able to carry over their leave balances from the previous year, so I'm going to leave this as no. Next, it'll ask if this leave type has a waiting period. So this is typically common if your employees go through a probationary period where they don't receive their vacation rights up front. In this example, my employees will receive 25 days vacation up front, and there's no waiting period, so I'm going to leave this as no. Next, we'll ask if there's a maximum cap on the leave that your employees can accrue. I'm going to say that the maximum leave employees can accrue at my company is 50 days. If there is no cap on how much time an employee can accrue, then you can go ahead and leave that as no. Next option you'll see is whether or not you want to increase employee leave allowance based on years' work. So this tends to be common if you have employees that accrue more leave over time based on their length of employment. If that is not the case at your company, you can go ahead and leave that as no. Okay, so under mass updates, You'll want to check both these boxes if this is the first time you're setting up leave rules for this leave type. What this will do is make sure that this leave type is applied to all of your employees and that the allowance is filled out in this way for all employees. This is especially useful if you have a large number of employees and you don't want to have to individually write in their leave balances or leave entitlements. Again, you'll only really want to check these boxes if this is the first time you've set up this leave policy. All right, and once you've looked over everything to review it, and if it all looks good, click the Save button at the bottom. Now after this, all of your employees will be assigned that same default allowance. I'll show you a quick example of what that'll look like. So if you click Employees on the left menu, then click Time Off Leave, and then click the Edit Annual Allowances button, you'll now see that my sample employee has been given 25 days leave. It's also set to automatically accrue. So keep in mind that this is the employee allowance screen. It's important to note that if you want your employees' leave balance to reset every year, if you click yes, you'll be able to choose when the balance will reset, whether it's on their anniversary or on a specific date. Before setting up a new leave policy, it's super important to remember that all of your employees must have start dates set in the system. This will ensure that the leave is applied and accrued correctly. Okay, now that you've set up your leave policy, you'll notice that if you go up here and click the Edit Annual Allowances button, that your employee will show 25 days under their annual allowance. If you go back to the default time off and leave screen, it shows you the employee leave balances by default. It's important to remember that the leave balance screen is different from the annual allowance screen. But after you set up your policy, you might notice that the annual allowance screen shows your employees leave, but the leave balance screen does not. And that could just be because it needs to wait another 4 hours before the server updates. So if you don't see the leave balance right away, don't panic. It'll definitely be there later in the day. All right, awesome job. That concludes our lesson on how to set up leave policies. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to edit annual allowances on the annual allowance screen, and that way you can alter the annual allowance of different employees in the system. This is especially useful if you have some employees that have different annual allowances than others. All right, I'll see you soon.